Hey guys, we're here in the bootmod dyno room with our Z4 again. Last video we were showing you some of the results that we got on the first go with the built motor, but with the stock MLS head gasket. It lived to about 50 psi, but it was already getting sketchy in that range on this 76-75 turbo. So we basically stopped and we had coolant shooting out of the coolant expansion tank. Some of that stuff you've seen in the last video, so I won't go over it. But basically since then we pulled the motor, we put in a custom head gasket aftermarket. It's a Firelock type head gasket. It has stainless rings that basically get machined into the block and get machined into the head. You get grooves in both sides, and then you seat the rings and you seat the gasket when you assemble it. So it's meant to hold higher boost pressures a lot better. So once the assembled motor was back in the car, we put it on the dyno and we basically turned it up slowly to see how things are, responding. So we got to about 1040, 1050 wheel, and we were basically running out of fuel at that point. And basically we realized that there were two things. So initially, when the intake manifold was purchased from Evolution of Speed, we told Mike there to send us 1000cc injectors. This was a long time ago. So we had 1000cc injectors. In the meantime, we ordered ID 1700s, and we were supposed to swap them in. The mechanic doing the work was supposed to do that when the engine was being put in. But somehow we ended up with still our original 1000cc injectors. And we thought, okay, well, we are maxing out the injectors, so we're gonna change them now. It was forgotten, whatever. So we put the 1700s in, and very soon after that, we ended up seeing fuel pressure dropping and basically wasn't keeping up with fuel again. So we looked at the fuel system that we got from Titan. This is also way back when we started working with this car. And this is the one with the radium surge tank. Originally, it had a Walbro 274 pump. And as you know, that's a check valve pump. There is a better, higher flowing version of it. There are two of them, 285 and a 295 Walbro pump. The 295 is not check valved, and it's great when it's used in something like a surge tank, where it's just flowing through fuel that's coming into it. So we changed the 274 to a 295 Walbro in the surge tank. And we also changed the one that we had in the fuel tank. The secondary pump there was an Aeromotive 340 pump. So we changed that pump also to a 295 because we don't need a check valve there either, as it's a secondary fuel system. It's not used to start the car up. We still have the original pump there to start the car up and run the DI. Now at this point we had 295 pumps. We had enough pump for where we wanted to go at this time, and we had the injectors. So we got the tuning. We backed down to our wastegate spring pressure, which is I think around 26, 27 psi, pretty high for wastegate, but because we're going high boost with a 3-port max solenoid, we wanted to, start off with a higher baseline boost pressure on the spring. So initially it was 32, we backed it down to a 26 psi setup for the wastegate. And that did, on the very first pull, we did about 750, I think 750, 760, somewhere there. So pretty good numbers for just like running relatively almost half the boost where we were going. So then we went basically 5-10 psi, each run after that, and we got back into our 50 psi range, and we were making around, I think, 1070, 1080. And this was the first time we were gonna go over 50 psi with the new gasket, and we went to 55 psi, and this time the gasket held. So it actually made, in the end, once we were done with everything in terms of tuning, in the end we stopped at 1180 wheel on our dyno jet. Actually 1214. Pretty good numbers. I don't recall seeing other numbers out there. If there's any other numbers, I apologize, that are done on a built motor with the stock cams. So we have the Kelford cams here, the B version of them that doesn't require removal of Valvetronic. So we'll be trying those cams now. In the dyno graphs, you'll see, it's making great power to about 6,000, 6,500 RPM, and the graphs start nosediving after that. So we're expecting the new cams to lift up that top end. And the other plan is to go a little bit bigger on the turbo. So we'll see what turbo we use. Probably we'll go to a 7480. That seems to be a pretty popular choice. The KLM kit that we got for our G80 has a 7480 turbo. So we'll probably try that on this as well. Hopefully, once we get there, everything that we have done so far is still holding. Otherwise, we'll just have to revisit and make the changes required to keep pushing. We'll see how that goes. My only question is, at this point, how this car is going to go straight when we test it out there on the street or on the track, and that'll require some tuning. It's got the suspension from HKS drag coilovers. That we have that on the car. We've basically got the drive shaft from Vargas from BTT. We have a drive shaft loop. We have the drive shaft shop rear axles on the car. The transmission, as you know, is built. We just got the torque converter from Pure Drivetrain. We're going with their billet stator version, and we'll see how this all plays out when we're actually trying to run the car. We'll start low and then start turning things up with this turbo. So really looking forward to that part of it, because that's where the fun is, right? And by the way, the car is running our Rev2 board. As many of you have seen over the last, last 2 years, 3 years, we've been talking about integration of auxiliary components with the original DME in the car. Back in May 2019, I shared the idea of doing these things in our Boot Mode enthusiasts Facebook group. So since then, a lot of work has been done. Many revisions of the project have been done, along with everything else that we released, including S58 custom ROM, B58 custom ROM, Gen 2 custom ROM. So all of these things have been done in parallel, and the Rev2 board was just basically flying along in the background as another project. So right now, finally, we have the board controlling our max solenoid that runs the boost control on this turbo, and we have the port injection running the ID 1700 injectors on this intake manifold. That's about it. Now we're gonna go and do some pulls. If you'd like to be in touch, in terms of what we do on this car, make sure to like and subscribe on our channel, and we'll see you in the next episode.